This first entry revolves around the idea that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, does not actually exist and is instead a construct created by a team of writers or a corporate entity. This stems from a mix of disbelief in her output and the intricacies of the Harry Potter universe. The theory can be traced back to online forums and social media discussions, where fans and skeptics alike have speculated about the likelihood of one person being capable of creating such a detailed and expansive series. There were several old Reddit threads that dive deep into various debates and aspects of this theory, but after trying to find some for a little while, I just couldn't. There's just this massive slew of other J.K. Rowling controversy that pushes the mentioned threads completely out of the way. And once you're able to sift through that mess, you pretty much only see news about how Rowling used a pseudonym to write some sort of true crime novel, or something to that extent. Anyway, in one of these threads, users discussed the possibility that Rowling is a hired actress, and the consistent quality and complexity of the Harry Potter books are more plausible if attributed to a team of writers rather than a single individual. You might be asking, why would anyone even do this in the first place? Well, presenting a single person as the author is a more effective marketing strategy than admitting to a corporate or collective authorship. This personal touch helps build a stronger connection with readers and enhances the brand's marketability. As for the arguments that are frequently used, we already mentioned that the sheer vastness of the series seems like a lot for one person to come up with. Aside from that, there's Rowling's consistency and her polished nature in professional public settings. Supporters of this theory point out that Rowling is unusually adept at handling media interviews and public relations. They're suspicious that she is just a stand-in who was professionally trained to handle the media, that she feels much more like a well-managed corporate entity rather than an individual writer. While there are people who believe that Rowling is not the true author, most are not convinced of this theory. They point to several different arguments to combat the idea, such as her consistent personal narrative and public persona. People state that these are difficult to fake over an extended period. Her interactions and responses on platforms also display a personal touch that would be hard to replicate by a team of individuals. There are also detailed accounts of Rowling's personal life before the success of the Harry Potter series. The accounts have been corroborated, but this same argument is also used by those who support the theory, saying that it was all an elaborate fabrication. The sheep-goat effect, a term coined by Gertrude Schmeidler, is a phenomenon in the field of parapsychology that has garnered significant attention and debate. It refers to the observed differences in psi, meaning psychic, performance between individuals who believe in psychic abilities and those who are skeptical. Those who believe are referred to as sheep, while those who are skeptical are called goats. Schmeidler's interest in the relationship between belief and psi performance led her to conduct a series of experiments with her students at the City University of New York. She designed a questionnaire to assess their beliefs about psi phenomena and subsequently administered psi tests using ESP cards. Schmeidler discovered a significant correlation between belief in psi and performance on psi tests, with believers performing above chance levels and skeptics performing below chance levels. Over the decades, numerous studies have replicated and expanded upon Schmeidler's initial findings. A meta-analysis by Lawrence in 1992 examined 73 experiments conducted by 37 different researchers, confirming that belief in psi is associated with higher performance in psi tasks. These studies have employed various methodologies, including card guessing, remote viewing, and psychokinesis tests, consistently demonstrating that sheep tend to score better than goats. One notable experiment involved a clairvoyance task using Zener cards, where participants were presented with written and verbal statements of scientific data designed to either reinforce or challenge their beliefs in psi. The results showed that believers given pro-psi statements performed significantly better than non-believers or those given anti-psi statements. This finding suggests that belief reinforcement plays a crucial role in psi performance. The sheep-goat effect has profound theoretical implications for our understanding of consciousness and reality. One key question is whether the observed differences in psi performance are due to genuine psychic abilities or psychological factors such as expectancy effects, confirmation bias, and the experimenter's influence. Critics argue that methodological flaws and biases could account for the effect, while supporters believe it demonstrates the influence of belief on psi phenomena. The newmill mystery blob is a phenomenon that has baffled residents and researchers alike. First reported in the early 2000s in the small village of Newmill, Scotland, the phenomenon involves sightings of a gelatinous amorphous mass that has led to various theories ranging from extraterrestrial origins to natural occurrences. The blobs were often whitish and translucent, found on the ground or on vegetation. They varied in size, ranging from a few inches to several feet in diameter. The consistency of the blobs was soft and gelatinous, easily breaking apart upon touch. The first reports emerged in the early 2000s, capturing the local community's attention immediately and eventually the media. Witnesses described encountering these blobs during early morning walks or while working in their fields. These sightings were often followed by mysterious illnesses among those who came into contact with the blobs, resembling symptoms of radiation poisoning. Some have suggested that the newmill blobs are actually the same thing as star jelly, which is actually a topic that we covered in Jimbo Seth's Mystery Iceberg a long time ago. Star jelly is believed to have extraterrestrial origins or come as a byproduct of meteor showers. However, despite historical accounts, there is a significant lack of consistent scientific evidence. There's also a theory suggesting that these blobs are nostoc, which is a type of cyanobacterium that forms gelatinous colonies, particularly after heavy rains. However, these usually appear blue or green, whereas the blobs are described as white. Another theory proposes the idea that these blobs may be the remains of amphibians expelled by predators. There's also the proposal that the blobs are some sort of industrial or agricultural byproduct, something like waste material or remnants from a chemical runoff. And finally, some believe that this thing is an alien, or at the very least has something to do with extraterrestrials. Okay, so like I said in the intro of the first part of the series, this iceberg gets a bit goofy. Assuming you believe that the moon was built, surely the logical next step would be to question who exactly is responsible for building it. There's actually a whole book created by Christopher Knight and Alan Butler titled Who Built the Moon? Obviously, we're not going to be diving too deep into that, but in it, the author suggests that the moon could have been built by God or some other divine entity, aliens, or time-traveling humans. Then there's a man named David Icke who is apparently well known amongst conspiracy theorist communities. David supports the idea that the moon is not only a hollow space station, but was built and controlled by extraterrestrial reptilians. There's also the Vossen-Sherbakov theory. This was proposed by Soviet scientists Mikhail Vossen and Alexander Sherbakov, and also argues for the moon being hollow and turned into some sort of spacecraft. The 1939 New York World's Fair, held in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, was a significant cultural event that attracted millions of visitors. It was a showcase of human achievement, innovation, and a vision of a brighter future. However, the fair was also the site of a tragic and mysterious event, that being the bombing on July 4th, 1940, which killed 2 NYPD officers. This event has since become a subject of various conspiracy theories, including the controversial idea that British intelligence was involved in influencing American public opinion and policy towards World War II. The 1939 New York World's Fair opened on April 30th, 1939, and was intended to be a celebration of progress and peace. With over 30 countries participating, the fair featured pavilions that displayed technological advancements, cultural exhibits, and futuristic concepts. It was a time when the world was on the brink of war, and the fair provided a temporary escape from the growing global tensions. On July 4th, 1940, a bombing at the British Pavilion resulted in the deaths of Detective Joseph Lynch and Patrolman Ferdinand Socha of the NYPD's Bomb and Forgery Squad. They were investigating a suspicious package that was emitting a ticking sound. When Lynch cut open the bag, it exploded, killing both officers instantly and injuring several others. This tragic event not only shocked the attendees, but also led to a series of investigations that ultimately did not identify the perpetrators. Initially, suspicion fell on the Irish Republican Army, given the political climate and previous acts of violence attributed to them. However, no concrete evidence linked the IRA to the bombing. The case remained unsolved, leading to various speculations and conspiracy theories over the years. One of the more controversial theories suggests that British intelligence orchestrated the bombing to garner American support for Britain during World War II. At that time, the United States was officially neutral, though there was significant debate about aiding the Allies. Proponents of this theory argue that a dramatic incident like the bombing could sway public opinion and encourage the US to support Britain more actively. The theory posits that Britain, facing severe threats from Nazi Germany, needed more direct involvement from the United States. By staging an attack on American soil, particularly at an event symbolizing international unity and progress, British intelligence could have aimed to create a sense of urgency and solidarity with the Allied cause. This idea is rooted in the broader context of British propaganda efforts during the war, which aimed to influence American public opinion and policy. Despite the intriguing narrative, there is no solid evidence to support the British conspiracy theory. Historians and experts generally regard it as speculative, pointing out that such a risky and morally dubious tactic would have been unlikely and counterproductive. Official investigations at the time did not find any proof of British involvement. The case is considered officially unsolved, but there are several other theories that people are more fond of. Those include domestic extremists, German agents, or lone wolves that aim to settle personal grievances. For YouTube reasons, I have to add a disclaimer before we start this next entry. I am not condoning the use of any substances. Do not use the information in this video to influence any stupid or reckless behavior. The concept of machine elves is reported by individuals who have experienced the compound known as DMT. These entities, which some users encounter during their experiences, have sparked extensive debate and interest within both the scientific and psychonaut communities. During a trip, users often report entering a completely different realm or dimension filled by intricate geometric patterns, intense colors, and notably encounters with seemingly autonomous entities. Machine elves, aka clockwork elves, or self-transforming machine elves, are described as small humanoid beings. These entities often appear to be composed of brightly colored, constantly shifting geometric patterns. They are perceived as sentient and autonomous, engaging with the user in various ways, such as through telepathic communication, imparting knowledge, or performing playful and mischievous acts. Reports of encounters with machine elves often describe them as welcoming and kind. They seem curious about the human visitors, sometimes guiding them through their realm and showing them different objects or locations. The interactions are typically imbued with a sense of profound meaning or importance. Enthusiasts and scientists have formulated various theories to try and explain what these elves really are. Some psychologists propose that these entities are manifestations of the user's subconscious mind. They might represent deep-seated thoughts, fears, desires, or archetypes brought to the surface by the altered state of consciousness that is induced. But those who are genuinely of the opinion that this other realm is real, they believe that these elves are actual divine living beings. The conspiracy theory about Russian elites having eyes that glow in the dark is one of the many strange and unfounded narratives that the internet has created. This theory, which is predominantly circulated on platforms like Reddit and 4chan, suggests that certain high-ranking individuals in Russia possess supernatural or extraterrestrial characteristics, notably eyes that emit a glow in darkness. This theory lacks scientific backing and is considered a fringe idea, yet it has caught the attention of a subset of conspiracy theorists who link it to broader narratives about secret societies, alien beings, and government cover-ups. The origins of this conspiracy theory are unclear, but it seems to have gained traction in online communities that are already predisposed to believing in unusual or supernatural phenomena. The theory is discussed extensively on subreddits like Conspiracy Commons and Reptilians on Reddit. At the heart of this theory is the belief that the glowing eyes of Russian elites are a sign of something more sinister. Some proponents suggest that this could be the result of advanced medical treatments accessible only to the elite, while others believe it points to a deeper, perhaps extraterrestrial origin. Another significant aspect of the theory is its connection to secret societies and hidden powers. Conspiracy theorists often link the glowing eyes to narratives about secretive organizations that control global events from behind the scenes. These secret societies are believed to possess advanced technologies or knowledge that allow them to alter their physical appearances, including making their eyes glow. This ties into long-standing conspiracy theories about groups like the Illuminati or Freemasons, who are often accused of wielding hidden power and engaging in occult practices. One of the most critical aspects of debunking this theory is the complete lack of scientific evidence. There is no credible biological or medical explanation for why a human's eyes would glow in the dark naturally. While some animals have reflective layers in their eyes that can create a glowing effect, this is not a trait found in humans. Any genuine case of glowing eyes in humans would likely be due to artificial means rather than a natural phenomenon. The persistence of such conspiracy theories can often be attributed to psychological and sociological factors. People are naturally drawn to sensational stories, especially those that offer simple explanations for complex issues. The idea of a secretive, powerful elite with supernatural traits provides a clear target for blame and fear, which can be comforting in a world that often feels chaotic and uncontrollable. This next entry seems to just be referring to one person's account of encountering a ghost. Since there's not really any additional information, I'm just going to read the post word for word. It was created back in June of 2001 by someone named Nikki. My house has always been full of paranormal activity. Things happen like pictures falling off walls when they were hung up well and no one was around to have knocked them down. White and gray blurs appear in different places, unexplainable noises, missing things that are later found, and random footsteps. I'm going to tell you about one of the strangest experiences I have encountered while living here. My best friend and I had just come from school and changed out of our uniforms and into comfortable shorts and t-shirts. We were kind of hungry, so we got some cheese and crackers. We sat down at my counter and started talking about our days, and she started telling me a story about something that happened in English class. That's when I suddenly heard something that made my stomach turn. We were on the main floor and coming from the basement. I could hear loud opera-type singing. The tune carried on and my friend stopped talking. We looked at each other and I asked her if she had just heard some kind of singing. She nodded and we both freaked out and ran outside. It was the middle of winter and there was snow on the ground, but we didn't care. We just didn't want to be in or near the house. I slammed the glass door behind me, and when we got down the stairs leading from the door to the porch, we turned around to look at the door because I thought I heard a cabinet close or something. I don't quite remember what exactly made me turn around, but standing behind the glass was a blurry black figure. My friend and I were freaking out and shaking, but not just because of the cold. We wanted to wait until my mom got home before we returned inside. The figure disappeared after a few moments and we just couldn't handle the cold anymore. We went back inside and sat by the back door until my mom came home. We told her what happened and said we were probably imagining things and there was probably just a radio or TV on downstairs. We went down there to check and there was nothing on. It was not possible that what we heard was a radio. The tune that was coming from the basement was in a way unearthly. The voice was beautiful. I know I wasn't hearing things because my friend and I both heard it at the same time. It was probably one of the strangest/scariest experiences of my life. Sometimes when I'm coming up the basement stairs at night, I can see the same shadowy figure in the kitchen, but when I turn on the light, nothing is there. Greek fire remains one of history's most interesting and formidable weapons. Developed by the Byzantine Empire around the 7th century, it was used primarily in naval battles to devastating effect. However, to this day, not only is its composition a mystery, but also its deployment methods. The Byzantine Empire, faced with numerous threats from various fronts, needed a powerful weapon to defend its territory, especially its capital, Constantinople. Greek fire is credited to Callinicos, a Syrian engineer who fled to the Byzantines and supposedly brought the formula with him. However, there is debate about whether Callinicos invented it or merely improved upon an existing technology. Greek fire was first used to great effect during the Arab sieges of Constantinople in 674 to 678 and 717 to 718 AD. Its ability to burn even on water made it a revolutionary weapon in naval warfare. The psychological impact on enemy forces was significant, as the sight of inextinguishable flames could instill pure terror and confusion. The exact composition of Greek fire remains one of history's best-kept secrets. Historical sources suggest a mixture of substances, including naphtha, which is a type of petroleum, quicklime, sulfur, and pine resin. However, the precise recipe and the process of combining these ingredients have been lost. The secrecy surrounding Greek fire cannot be understated. The formula was known only to a select few, and the knowledge was carefully guarded and passed down through generations of Byzantine emperors and trusted officials. This compartmentalization ensured that even if the Byzantines' enemies captured the weapon, they could not replicate it due to the lack of comprehensive knowledge of its composition and preparation. Greek fire was deployed using various innovative methods. The most famous deployment method was through siphons mounted on ships. These siphons acted like flamethrowers, projecting the fire onto enemy ships. The Byzantine navy used pressure pumps to spray the burning liquid, creating a powerful barrier against attackers. In addition to ship-mounted siphons, handheld projectors known as chirosiphons were used for close combat. These devices allowed soldiers to use Greek fire in land battles and sieges. There are also accounts of Greek fire being used in clay grenades, which could be thrown at enemies. Modern scientists and historians have made numerous attempts to recreate Greek fire. Using historical texts and experimental archaeology, researchers have tried to make the incendiary mixture with varying degrees of success. Some theories suggest that the addition of quicklime to the mixture caused an exothermic reaction when exposed to water, enabling the fire to burn even on the sea. Other theories propose that light petroleum or naphtha was the primary ingredient, combined with sulfur, pine resin, and other substances to create a sticky, flammable liquid. Despite these efforts, no definitive recreation of Greek fire has been achieved, and its exact composition remains speculative. The deployment mechanisms of Greek fire were also advanced for their time. The use of pressure pumps and siphons to project the fire was a technological marvel. The Florida zombies phenomenon refers to a series of incidents and theories surrounding bizarre and violent behavior exhibited by individuals in Florida, often attributed to the use of synthetic drugs like bath salts. The most notable incident involved Rudy Eugene, dubbed the Miami Cannibal, who attacked and severely injured Ronald Popo in May 2012. On May 26, 2012, Rudy Eugene attacked Ronald Popo under the MacArthur Causeway in Miami, Florida. Eugene, naked and reportedly acting erratically, was witnessed tearing at Popo's face with his teeth, leading to severe injuries. The attack lasted for 18 minutes and only ended when police shot and killed Eugene. In the immediate aftermath, there was widespread speculation that Eugene was under the influence of bath salts. This theory was bolstered by reports from the Miami police, who suggested that the substance could have induced the violent behavior observed in Eugene. Media outlets quickly latched onto this narrative, branding Eugene as a zombie and fueling public hysteria about a potential drug-induced zombie apocalypse. Subsequent toxicology reports revealed that there were no traces of bath salts or other synthetic drugs in Eugene's system. The only substance detected was marijuana. Scientists and researchers emphasized that the behavior exhibited by Eugene did not align with known effects of bath salts, which include severe agitation and psychosis, but not cannibalism. Michael Bauman, head of the Designer Drug Research Unit at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, clarified that while bath salts can cause serious psychological effects, they do not drive individuals to eat each other. The media's portrayal of bath salts as a zombie drug was thus largely unfounded and contributed to public misinformation. Another synthetic substance, flocka, was also brought into the conversation due to its severe side effects, which include extreme agitation, hallucinations, and psychotic behavior. However, there was no evidence linking Eugene's attack to flocka. The conflation of these substances with zombie-like behavior continued to fuel the myth despite a lack of scientific support. The Tartarian ruins and mud flood hypothesis is a theory suggesting the existence of an advanced global civilization known as the Tartarian Empire, which has been systematically erased from history through a catastrophic mud flood event. This theory gained traction around 2016 and saw a significant surge in interest by 2018. According to supporters, the Tartarian Empire was a technologically advanced global civilization that left behind intricate architectural structures worldwide. These structures, they claim, have been misattributed to other cultures and periods by mainstream historians. The theory also sometimes depicts the Tartarians as giants. Enthusiasts argue that the grand buildings with high ceilings and elaborate designs could not have been constructed by contemporary human civilizations. The mud flood hypothesis suggests a global catastrophe caused buildings and cities to be submerged in mud, burying much of the Tartarian civilization. This event is said to have occurred in the 19th century, though exact dates and causes are often unclear and vary. Historians and archaeologists argue there is no credible evidence supporting the existence of a Tartarian empire or a global mud flood event. The theory relies heavily on misinterpretations of architectural features and a lack of understanding of urban development. The sensation of feeling watched, even when out of the direct line of sight, is a widely reported phenomenon. This sensation, often termed the psychic staring effect or gaze detection, has intrigued scientists, psychologists, and parapsychologists alike, leading to a range of studies and theories. From an evolutionary perspective, the ability to detect when someone is staring at us could have provided significant survival advantages. According to research, the visible and well-defined sclera and iris of human eyes likely evolved to enhance nonverbal communication, facilitating threat detection and social interactions. This evolutionary trait would have helped early humans sense potential predators or rivals, improving their chances of survival. The human brain is equipped with sophisticated mechanisms for gaze detection. Research involving brain imaging has shown that specific brain regions, such as the superior temporal sulcus, are more active when individuals sense they are being looked at compared to when the observer's gaze is averted by just a few degrees. This suggests that our brains are wired to recognize and respond to the direction of others' gazes. Additionally, peripheral vision plays a crucial role in detecting changes in our environment, including the feeling of being watched. Our peripheral vision is sensitive to movement and light, which may help us notice when someone is looking at us from the side or behind. The scientific investigation of the sense of being stared at has produced mixed results, often sparking controversy. One of the most prominent figures in this field is Rupert Sheldrake, a biochemist and parapsychologist who has conducted extensive experiments on the psychic staring effect. According to the Sci Encyclopedia, Sheldrake's experiments often yielded positive results, suggesting that people can detect when they are being stared at with greater accuracy than chance would predict. For instance, in a large-scale experiment conducted at the Nemo Science Center in Amsterdam, over 18,700 participants demonstrated statistically significant results indicating the ability to sense being watched. However, these findings have been met with skepticism. Critics argue that methodological flaws, such as lack of proper controls and the potential for sensory cues, could explain the positive results. Skeptical perspectives, such as those presented by David F. Marks and John Colwell, suggest that the psychic staring effect could be an artifact of pseudo-randomization and biases in experimental design. Psychological factors such as expectation and confirmation bias play a significant role in the sensation of being stared at. People who are self-conscious or anxious may be more likely to feel that they are being watched, as their heightened awareness and sensitivity to social cues can lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone is one of New Hampshire's most intriguing artifacts. Discovered in 1872 near Lake Winnipesaukee in Meredith, New Hampshire, this stone has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and the public alike due to its unique carvings, mysterious origins, and the perplexing context of its discovery. As the story goes, the workers were digging on a site belonging to Seneca A. Ladd, a prominent local businessman and inventor. When the stone was uncovered, it immediately drew attention due to its peculiar shape and carvings. Recognizing its potential significance, Ladd took possession of the stone and kept it as a personal artifact until his death in 1892. The exact details of the discovery were not well documented at the time, which has contributed to the ongoing mystery surrounding the stone. There are no comprehensive records of the depth at which the stone was found, the precise location within the site, or any contextual artifacts that might have been present. Upon its discovery, the stone's unusual characteristics quickly caught the attention of those who saw it. The stone is egg-shaped, measuring approximately 4 inches in length and 2.5 inches at its widest point. Made from a type of quartzite, it has a dark, smooth surface covered with a variety of carvings. These carvings include a face, an ear of corn, circles, a teepee, inverted arrows, and various other geometric and abstract shapes. The craftsmanship of the stone suggested a high level of skill, even more so given the tools available at the time. The most interesting features were the 2 holes drilled into the stone, one from the top and one from the bottom, with different sized bits. These holes are perfectly straight and smooth, which implies the use of advanced drilling techniques. The top hole is 1/8 of an inch in diameter, while the bottom hole is 3/8 of an inch. One of the earliest and most widely considered theories is that the stone is a Native American artifact. This theory is primarily based on the carvings found on the stone. These symbols suggest a connection to Native American cultures, particularly those from the northeastern United States. The carvings of an ear of corn and a teepee could indicate agricultural and residential symbolism, which are significant aspects of a Native American life. Corn was a staple crop and often held spiritual significance, while the teepee could symbolize shelter or a community structure. Some researchers believe the stone may have served a ceremonial purpose. Joe Graveline, an indigenous historian, proposed that it could have been a birthstone used by Native American midwives to help relax muscles during childbirth. According to Graveline, such stones were heated and used internally to aid difficult births. This specific stone, with its intricate carvings, might have been used for a particularly revered individual, possibly a future spiritual or governmental leader. Another theory posits that the stone could be of Celtic or Inuit origin. This idea stems from the belief that ancient transoceanic contact could have occurred, bringing artifacts from Europe or the Arctic regions to North America long before Columbus. Supporters of the Celtic origin theory point to the stone's carvings and material, suggesting similarities with known Celtic artifacts. The theory says that early Celtic explorers might have brought the stone to North America, where it was eventually buried and lost. Alternatively, the Inuit origin theory suggests that the stone could have been traded or carried south by the Inuit people. The precise drilling and the artistic style of the carvings might have parallels in Inuit craftsmanship, which often included detailed and symbolic carvings on tools and ceremonial objects. In 1931, a letter to the New Hampshire Historical Society introduced the idea that the stone might be a thunderstone. Thunderstones are artifacts believed by various cultures to have fallen from the sky, often associated with thunder gods or other deities. Thunderstones are found in many cultures around the world and are typically wedge-shaped or axe-like objects. They are often considered to have magical or protective properties. The letter suggested that the Lake Winnipesaukee stone was either created by natural forces or crafted to resemble such an artifact. There are also many people who bring up the possibility that this stone is a hoax. Given the precision of the drilled holes, some experts have argued that the stone might be a modern creation intended to mimic an ancient artifact. This theory suggests that the stone could have been crafted in the 19th or early 20th century using contemporary tools, possibly as a prank or a piece of folk art. Richard Boivert, a state archaeologist, noted that the uniformity of the drilled holes indicates they were made with power tools, rather than the hand tools available to prehistoric peoples. The holes are smooth and straight, lacking the irregularities typically seen in ancient drilling techniques. Richard's analysis concluded that the holes were likely drilled in the 19th or 20th century. In 1994, a borescope analysis was conducted to examine the stone's holes more closely. The results showed that the holes were highly regular and lacked the variations typically associated with hand-drilled prehistoric artifacts. The presence of scratches inside the holes suggested that the stone had been placed on a metal shaft and removed several times, further supporting the theory that modern tools were used. The idea that life or even entire universes could exist inside black holes is a fringe yet wildly interesting theory. Black holes are regions in space where gravitational forces are so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape from them. They are formed from the remnants of massive stars that collapse under their own gravity. The boundary of a black hole is known as the event horizon, beyond which escape is impossible. At the core of a black hole lies the singularity, a point where density becomes infinite and the laws of physics as we know them cease to apply. Several theories propose that black holes could be more than just destructive entities and might play a role in the creation of new universes or harbor life in some form. These theories often hinge on the idea that black holes could be gateways to other regions of space-time or even entirely separate universes. The nested universes hypothesis suggests that black holes could contain universes within them. This idea is grounded in the similarity between the mathematical descriptions of black holes and the Big Bang. In essence, a black hole could collapse into a singularity, which then bounces to form a new universe on the other side of the event horizon. This new universe would be disconnected from our own, and the event horizon would serve as a one-way boundary. Another related theory is Schwarzschild cosmology, which posits that our universe could exist inside a black hole that belongs to a larger parent universe. This idea builds on the concept of black holes as regions of extreme density and gravitational pull, similar to the conditions at the Big Bang. If true, this theory would imply a series of nested universes, much like Russian nesting dolls, each contained within black holes of preceding universes. The idea that life or entire universes could exist inside black holes raises numerous intriguing questions and challenges for our understanding of physics and cosmology. One of the key issues is the black hole information paradox, which concerns the fate of information that falls into a black hole. According to quantum mechanics, information cannot be destroyed, yet black holes seem to obliterate anything that crosses their event horizons. If black holes could harbor new universes or life, it might offer a solution to this paradox by suggesting that the information is not destroyed but rather transferred to another universe. The singularity at the heart of a black hole represents a point where current physical theories break down. The extreme density and gravitational forces suggest that conventional matter and life as we know them could not survive. However, if the singularity leads to a new universe, the conditions within that universe could be vastly different, potentially allowing for forms of life that are adapted to those conditions. The concept of multiverses or multiple universes is bolstered by the idea of universes existing within black holes. If black holes in our universe give birth to new universes, it suggests a potentially infinite chain of universes, each with its own distinct physical laws and constants. This multiverse theory is speculative, but offers a framework for understanding the diversity and complexity of existence beyond our observable universe. While these theories are largely speculative, they are grounded in some observations and mathematical models that explain their plausibility. Observations of the cosmic microwave background and the large-scale structure of the universe provide indirect evidence for the nested universes hypothesis. For instance, if our universe is closed and shaped by the conditions of a parent black hole, it might exhibit certain patterns in the CMB that we can detect with advanced telescopes and observational techniques. The behavior of black holes, such as their rotation and the emission of Hawking radiation, offers clues about the processes that might occur within them. Theoretical models of rotating black holes or Kerr black holes suggest that they might harbor stable regions where the laws of physics differ from those in our universe. These regions could potentially support exotic forms of matter and energy. The theory linking Wall Street with witchcraft can be traced back to various historical and cultural sources. The financial district's history is filled with stories of power, secrecy, and manipulation, which easily lend themselves to conspiracy theories. Early theories were fueled by the secretive nature of financial dealings and the significant influence of major financial institutions on global economics. Max Gunther's book, Wall Street and Witchcraft, delves into the historical connections and explores how superstition and occult practices have allegedly influenced financial decisions throughout history. Gunther's work provides a lot of valuable information for understanding the origins of these theories. Symbolism plays a crucial role in the theory, with proponents pointing to various symbols in financial institutions that they claim have occult origins. For instance, the architecture of certain buildings on Wall Street, such as the iconic pyramid and eye found on the back of the US dollar bill, is often cited as evidence of a hidden agenda. Rituals are another significant aspect, with some believing that financial success is achieved through specific practices that mirror those found in occult traditions. The timing of stock market openings, the ringing of the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and other ceremonial actions are viewed through this lens. One of the most persistent aspects of this theory is the alleged influence of secret societies like the Freemasons and the Illuminati. These groups are believed to wield significant power over global financial systems, using occult knowledge and rituals to maintain their control. Various prominent figures in finance are often linked to these conspiracy theories. Mark Gorton, a successful Wall Street trader, is one such individual. Gorton has written extensively about what he believes to be the deep state's influence over financial markets. Other notable figures include the Rockefeller family, often cited in conspiracy theories for their immense influence over both finance and global politics. The Rockefellers' alleged involvement in secret societies further fuels these theories. And throughout the decades, the financial district's evolution has changed immensely, starting as a modest trading post and growing to a global financial powerhouse. These times of significant economic transformation has led to the creation of many conspiracy theories. The 1929 stock market crash, the Great Depression, and subsequent economic crises have all contributed to the perception of an unseen hand guiding financial markets. These events are often retrospectively linked to occult practices, with theorists suggesting that financial elites used esoteric knowledge to manipulate market outcomes for their benefit. The theory about secret, powerful elites is also represented in media and popular culture. Films, books, and television shows have all explored the idea of occult influence in finance, embedding these concepts in the public consciousness. For example, the movie Eyes Wide Shut, which I personally really like, explores themes of secret societies and their hidden rituals, which many viewers interpret as a commentary on real-life financial elites. Despite this idea being intriguing, the theory linking Wall Street and witchcraft faces significant criticism. Mainstream scholars and financial experts often dismiss these ideas as unfounded and lacking empirical evidence. They argue that the theory relies heavily on circumstantial evidence and symbolic interpretation rather than concrete proof. The belief in occult influence over Wall Street has broader socio-political implications. It reflects a deep-seated distrust of financial institutions and the perceived inequities of the global economic system. This distrust is often compounded by economic crises and scandals, which reinforce the idea that a powerful few control the fortunes of many. These theories can also be seen as a form of resistance against perceived economic oppression. By attributing financial woes to a hidden cabal of elites, people can rationalize economic disparities and find a scapegoat for systemic issues. So this next entry is about the myth of monkeys coming together to basically form a bridge. I remember seeing instances in cartoons where such a thing was shown off, but I never actually gave it much thought, and apparently this idea is a myth. It seems that this idea can be traced back to the late 1500s, where naturalists stated that monkeys would form a living bridge in order to cross alligator-infested rivers. There's another topic that is similar called rat kings, which refers to a group of rats joining together by the tail. This can also be traced back to the 15th century. Most say that the rats' tails stick together because of some sort of substances, while others state that the tails somehow just get tangled up. In the past, rat kings were seen as a bad omen representing death. This next entry is another topic that seems to just revolve around an old internet post. I'm not sure when exactly this post was created, but it seems to be around 2002 to 2004. Based on the contents, it seems a lot like a backroom story, which would be pretty interesting seeing that this was from the early 2000s. Anyway, the story is titled The Strange Room, and it was written by a person named Mel Phillips. In June 1995, I was going to work. I lived right next to where I worked at that time. A security badge was required to enter through the back door of the building where I worked. I went up the stairs to the second floor and turned right to enter a large work area I always entered. But to my shock, there was only a small room that had windows where a wall should have been. There were also several long couches and a fixed bench against the wall where the windows were. There should have been cubicles divided by the portable walls you see in high-tech offices. A small room room of about 25 square feet had replaced the 250 by 50-foot room I was expecting to see, as I had seen for over a year. I descended and reascended the stairs 4 more times to try to see if the new room to the right of the top landing would revert back to what it was supposed to be, but it remained different from what I knew it should look like. I was beginning to panic when someone I knew showed up to go to work. He always took the same right turn I was trying to make to get to his cubicle, so I followed him up the stairs just behind him. This time, when we made the turn together, the room appeared as it should have been. My coworker never knew of my weird attempts to get to my office. I kept quiet for obvious reasons. Has anyone else ever had a weird event like this happen to them? I hope I never encounter another one. It really shakes you up. The Salish Sea is a network of waterways in British Columbia, Canada, and Washington State in the US. It has become the focal point of a strange and disturbing mystery. Since 2007, over 20 human feet, mostly in sneakers, have washed ashore in this region. This phenomenon has captivated the public's imagination and prompted extensive investigations. The mystery began on August 20th, 2007, when a man's right foot, inside of a size 12 sneaker, was discovered on Jedediah Island in British Columbia. This initial find was soon followed by a series of similar discoveries along the coast, sparking widespread speculation and concern. Then on February 8th, 2008, another right foot was found in a size 11 sneaker on Valdez Island. A few months later, on May 22nd, a right foot that is said to have belonged to a woman was found on Kirkland Island. Less than a month later, a man's left foot was found on West Ham Island. This foot was later matched up to the foot found on February 8th, 2008. The first foot found outside of British Columbia was in August of 2008. More discoveries would pop up over the years, with over 20 feet being found by 2020. Many of the feet have been identified through DNA testing, linking them to missing persons. Most individuals had died from accidents or for example, one foot was linked to a man who had been missing since 2004 due to depression, and another to a fisherman missing since 1987. Forensic scientist Gail Anderson from Simon Fraser University conducted studies to understand the decomposition process in marine environments. Using pig carcasses as proxies for human bodies, Anderson's research revealed that underwater scavengers such as shrimp, lobsters, and crabs quickly skeletonize a body, favoring softer tissues around joints. This process leads to the natural disarticulation of feet from the body. Modern sneakers, designed with lightweight materials and air pockets, are buoyant. This buoyancy helps disarticulated feet to float and travel considerable distances before washing ashore. The British Columbia Coroner Service has stated that they have found no evidence of foul play in these cases. The feet separated naturally due to decomposition, with no signs of trauma or cutting marks on the bones. Although widely discredited by historians and scholars, the theory that ancient Rome didn't exist has gained some traction on social media platforms, particularly TikTok. It draws on a tradition of historical revisionism and skepticism that questions the authenticity of historical records. One of the earliest figures associated with such ideas was Jean Ardouin, a 17th century French Jesuit scholar. He argued that many ancient texts, including those attributed to Roman authors, were forgeries created by medieval monks to serve various ideological purposes. In the late 19th century, Edwin Johnson, an English radical atheist, expanded on these ideas. Johnson suggested that not only were individual texts forgeries, but entire periods of history, including the Roman Empire, were fabricated. The resurgence of the theory in modern times can be largely attributed to social media platforms like TikTok. Various users popularized the idea through viral videos, claiming that historical evidence of ancient Rome is either misinterpreted or just fake. These videos often argue that there is a lack of unique material culture attributed to Rome, and that primary documents and radiocarbon dates do not support the traditional narrative. The theory posits that many of the architectural and engineering feats attributed to the Romans, such as aqueducts and roads, are either exaggerations or misattributions. Skeptics question how an ancient civilization could achieve such advanced technology without modern tools and knowledge. Advocates also claim that there is no unique material culture that can be definitively attributed to Rome. They argue that artifacts commonly associated with the Roman Empire could belong to other ancient cultures, such as the Greeks or Egyptians, and that the attribution to Rome is a later invention. However, this theory has been thoroughly debunked by historians, archaeologists, and classicists. There is a vast amount of archaeological evidence supporting the existence of ancient Rome. This includes ruins of cities, roads, aqueducts, and other infrastructure that are unmistakably Roman in design and construction. For example, the remains of the Colosseum, Roman forums, and numerous artifacts unearthed in Italy and beyond provide tangible proof of Roman civilization. Numerous contemporary accounts from various cultures describe interactions with the Roman Empire. These accounts, written by Greek, Egyptian, and even Chinese historians, corroborate the existence and influence of Rome. The Latin language developed and spread by the Romans forms the basis of many modern European languages, including Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. The widespread and enduring influence of Latin is a strong indicator of the historical reality of the Roman Empire, and there are many more arguments that go on to further support that ancient Rome was indeed real. The legend of Rap.mp3 and Memphis rap sigils is rooted in the more obscure corners of the Memphis rap scene from the 1990s. These myths have gained traction over the years, creating a narrative with supernatural elements. This era produced a distinctive sound characterized by dark, haunting beats and grim lyrical themes, often touching upon violence, the occult, and supernatural phenomena. The legend of Rap.mp3, meanwhile, emerged from internet forums later on, such as 4chan and Reddit. It revolves around a supposedly cursed or haunted rap song that brings misfortune or even death to those who listen to it. This legend often ties back to the Memphis rap scene, suggesting that some tracks from this period possess demonic powers. The following list is just a few songs that are said to contain hidden messages, demonic chants, or eerie sounds that invoke a sense of dread and horror. Obviously, I won't be playing them for you since I don't want to deal with the headache of potential copyright. Wanted, Dead or Alive by 10 Wanted Men. The Single by Children of the Corn. The World of a Psycho by Maniac, Living in a Casket by HOH, and Words of Destruction by Nod, and much more. It's said that listening to these songs under special circumstances can invoke supernatural experiences. One notable aspect of this legend is the insistence that the tracks must be listened to on their original cassette recordings for the curse to take effect. As for Rap.mp3, there are rumors that this track contains the screams of someone being murdered, potentially a young boy. The Grim Reaper of the Grand Canyon. So I remember this image making its rounds on YouTube years ago. This photo was obviously taken at the Grand Canyon back in the 80s and has gone on to become one of the more creepy photos to ever be taken. A little over a decade ago, a Reddit user by the name of Zombie Gaddafi made a post about an eerie story on his uncle who was 50 years old at the time of the Reddit post. His uncle visited the Grand Canyon with a group of friends and the trip seemed like any other at first. As the group was driving through the canyon, one of the friends asked to take a break on the side and stretch their bodies a bit as they had been cooped up in the vehicle for quite a while. They decided to stop at an area with pretty dense hedges, and as with any trip, they decided to take some pictures of each other. One of the friends suggested that OP's uncle stand at the edge of the canyon while holding out a fishing rod. They proceeded to get into position, take the photo, and then drive off. After the trip, everyone visited a shop to get their roll of photos developed, and once it was complete, they were pretty shocked to see a very tall and pale young man in an all-black robe standing behind OP's uncle just staring at the camera. All of the friends were wondering who this guy was and why exactly he was so close to OP's uncle. The uncle said that they had been in the area for about 15 minutes in total and they didn't see any tourists around in that time. So everything you just heard was basically the information from the original Reddit post, and OP would come back a little while later with an edit which included the photograph as well as some corrections. OP added that the photo isn't exactly as he remembered. Details such as the fishing rod were inaccurate details that his brain just randomly added. OP said that he asked his uncle about the photo, and as he was recalling the trip, he was adamant that both he and the person taking the picture never noticed a guy in the back. OP said that he was really young when he made the original post, and even younger when his uncle first told him the story. He thought that perhaps his uncle was trying to creep him out and make up some lies to make the story scarier. So OP then asked his other family members about the photo and showed it to them. Everyone he asked also said that they had no idea who that person was, and they said that they were very familiar with most of the friends that OP's uncle hung out with. As the story gained attention, Reddit users came in droves to share their theories as to who or what the guy was doing there. The two most popular and accepted theories are that the guy was just a normal random dude there to take a piss, or the entire situation was a hoax. Initially, there were a lot of people who mentioned that the guy was abnormally tall, but that can be explained as just his positioning making him appear much larger. This is definitely the most boring theory, but Occam's razor and all that, this is probably the most likely. It's pretty creepy knowing that this guy was tailing you and you had no idea, but he was probably harmless. Another popular theory is, of course, the name of this entry. The guy was the Grim Reaper. There have been numerous Grim Reaper sightings throughout time, and how the Reaper appears in front of someone who is about to die. Someone in the friend group may have been fated to lose their life that day, only to live past their expected time of death. Obviously, some people may think this theory is outlandish and think that the internet simply took something and blasted it way out of proportion. There are several other theories as well, but you might be thinking of two darker possibilities right now. The first of which being the guy was going to push OP's uncle off of the cliff, but got discouraged as he saw the friends taking the picture. Now, it's not exactly like you have a high likelihood of dying just by visiting the Grand Canyon, as the odds of dying as a result of falling over the cliff are about 1 in 1.8 million visitors. But nevertheless, it is possible, as there have been over 900 deaths at the site, and shockingly, I didn't expect this, but the leading cause of death at the Grand Canyon is actually from airplane and helicopter accidents. However, in April of 1993, a man named Robert Spangler actually took his third wife to the Grand Canyon and intentionally shoved her over a cliff. And this dude is just demented. Over a decade earlier in 1978, he actually murdered his first wife as well as his children, but that is an entirely different rabbit hole for another day. So what some people thought was that the guy in the picture was some mysterious serial killer, and some other people think that this guy was there to take his own life before he ran into OP's uncle and friends. Poe Toaster is the name that is used to refer to an unidentified person who visited famed author Edgar Allan Poe's grave on an annual basis in the early hours of the day on Poe's birthday. The mysterious figure was described wearing black with a wide-brimmed hat and white scarf. The shadowy individual always poured out a glass of cognac to raise a toast in honor of Poe before disappearing. This person was often seen leaving behind 3 roses in a distinct arrangement, as well as the unfinished bottle of cognac. As time went on, this person gained a sort of mythical status and thus commanded a group of onlookers every year who hoped to see the person's face. According to onlookers, the person appeared to be male and has been visiting the grave ever since the 1930s, but the documentation didn't begin until the 1950s. And then in 1998, the original Poe Toaster supposedly died, and the task of paying tribute to Edgar Allan Poe was handed down to a quote-unquote son. This son left behind some notes on the grave containing some controversial statements, which caused many observers to become irritated and attempt to detain or at least identify the guy. Depending on the source, the final time that Poe Toaster visited the grave was either in 2009 or 2012. But in 2016, the Maryland Historical Society selected a new person to continue the toaster tradition. This new assigned toaster was, of course, not anonymous, and the entire event was turned into a public celebration. And to this day, the identity of the original Poe Toaster is still unknown.